First of all, I wanted to thank you for the invitation and for all the inspirative contributions I could hear here. And I think that after these 2 or already almost 3 days, we can see that there is evidently a great surge of interest in the avant-garde in the recent or in past years, and the similar situation, I think, is in the Czech environments, where this conjuncture of returns to the avant-garde could be also evidenced by a number of exhibitions, projects, grants, studies and books on the subject, similar to what we had opportunity to observe at this symposium in other countries. And I will not go now into specific titles here, although this alone would have their own telling value. I will leave this for some particular interviews or questions. And I think that now I will not add much. I just want to rather show you some nice photos, maybe, because we have heard a lot. But let me start maybe a little bit provocative. One not incomprehensible, but on the contrary, very general accident happens to these projects, probes, and investigations. In immersing themselves into the object of their interest, they make it in the center of the universe, and very often fail to see its limits, to consider it in the context of other concurrent phenomena. This is often the result of a certain fascination and also of a certain historical perspective, where we know what comes next and therefore what will eventually be judged as a progressive and inspiring from a former time. And from this set point, we often present past phenomena in somewhat exaggerated way, granting them an undue dominance, redefinement, and excellence. With this deliberately provocative introduction, I do not mean to deny the role and undoubted contribution of avant-garde artistic outbursts. I will only try to point out with one particular piece of material some generalizable qualities, and I'd like to think also about the limitations of Czech avant-garde theatrical experiments. The particular material that I want to present here as a very good testimony to Czech theatre avant-garde are the so-called RADLS albums stored in the library of the Prague Theatre Institute. Maybe I will make just a little promo now of the project which was mentioned. This is the project of our encyclopedia. We have it all online, and then you can find many entries about avant-garde personalities, and also this is the entry of Bedřich Rádl, which I'm going to talk about. So these are what I want to present now, a kind of scrapbooks, as I called them in the title of my paper. And they contain variety of authentic material, including photographs, clippings, costume and scene sketches, posters, theater signs, text, scripts and more. The brother Rádls, they were called Otto and Bedřich Rádl. They were not like many other creative personalities from the Czech theatre avant-garde, just theatre people. Yet, and perhaps because of it, their contribution and influence in this direction was very significant. Both graduated in law. They were also useful to the theatre in this respect. Among other things, they helped with the operational agenda. Otto Rádl worked as a clerk in the theatre office. They were involved in film journalism, photography and set design. This artistic syncretism is very characteristic of the creators, not only of Czech theatre avant-garde. Also, theatre and film were initially regarded as competitors. In reality, one art form did not pose a threat to the other, as some theoreticians and publicists feared under the influence of the rapid development and great reach of film. Rather, they became a source of mutually productive inspiration, which the avant-gardists understood very well and very quickly. I'm referring here to the practices of grotesque, strong stylization and aesthetization of artistic expression. But let us return to the material I want to present and let it speak. The brothers Otto and Bedřich Rádl combined their youthful theatrical enthusiasm with what would later become the most important and successful Czech avant-garde scene, which was liberated theatre, osvobozené divadlo in the Czech language. The two voluminous albums entitled Osvobozené divadlo Documentation Part 1 from the beginning, which means February 1926 to 30 June 1927, and Liberated Theatre Documentation Part 2 from the autumn of 1926 to the end of spring 1930. Document, as their title suggests, the activities of leading Czech avant-garde scene from its beginning to the internal split among its creators and even beyond. I won't go in the details here about the specific names and their creative approaches. I will just mention briefly that the initial experiment character of the scene was determined by mutually very different theorizing directors Jiří Frejka and Jindřich Honzl, and then by increasingly popular creative duo of comedians Jiří Voskovec and Jiří Verik in tandem with music composer Jaroslav Ježek, whose production eventually dominated the theatre. Maybe we can, this is something another, but we can see them, this is the duo of very well known comedians, Voskovec and Verik. We maybe know them also from another positions or photos. That's what is for me also authentic on this material. We can see them now in a way in which their cooperators just took them on photos. Yeah, here they are making a fun of the naturalistic way of acting and of staging. You can see some like parody. The key features of the first season of the avant-garde scene that I want to highlight in the authentic material presented here, and which I think have wider validity, include juvenile, youthful character of not only this avant-garde art. The Rádl brothers were not much more than 20 years old at the time of these albums, and along with them their other generation contemporaries. To be precise, they were 21 and 24. The group came together during the high school years of the individual players. This is one of the essential aspects to take in account. As historiographers, we often tend to canonize avant-garde theatrical explorations and cast them as something superior, sophisticated and polished. It is not that this is entirely inconsistent or contradictory with the set youth. I just want to draw attention to this circumstance, which is also evident from the material presented here, namely that these were useful attempts with all that this entails. I mean, a certain natural lightness, unintentionality, situationality, improvisation, playfulness. And so it can often happen that we overinterpret something that could have been the result of circumstances, of situation, of improvisation, like, for example, I wanted to show this great costume of actress. She's called Světla Svozilová, and she stood in at the last time for an indisposed colleague, and not having a costume, hastily she sewed a dress from a piano cover. Not knowing this, we could say that this is a stylish in the spirit of constructivism or geometrizing cocktail dress, isn't it? Yeah. But you can see it's also here just piano cover. Yeah. Another aforementioned thing is syncretism inherent in the entire theatrical avant-garde, naturally combining different kinds of art into one form is also evident in sketches, manuscripts and photographs passed into the albums under discussion. And here we could linger or skip a long time. I don't know what I have here. The pictures, one of the significant features of theatrical production, and not only of the liberated theatre, its connection with the dance and movement art, but also music and visual art to such an extent that it's almost impossible, even out of place, to talk about drama or other theatrical genres. The collaboration of choreographers and dancers. Here you can see Mira Holzbakova on the slide, and it was written about her in some reflections of this hair. She called it the dancing evolutions, these hair creations. And it was written about her that she gave the impression that she was dancing just for fun. So, yeah, there was something very light in this art, and very, I would say, not so sincere or not so serious. Yeah. These were often the first attempts of later famous names, also from visual arts that I wanted to show you. This is some sketches of costumes and masks made by Otakar Mrkvička, which was a very famous architect, and later and by Karel Tajge, a very famous theoretist of avant-garde. So there is no doubt that the avant-garde brought refreshing stimuli to European theatre, certainly in response to the horrors of the First World War, which fundamentally shook the certainties of human existence. That's why it was what it was: light-footed, reckless, playful, experimental, unencumbered, free, seemingly almost limitless. But for all this fascination and sympathy that is rightly its, it would be a disservice to uncritically exalt and overestimate her manifestations without acknowledging that it has also its limits. It was capable, as youth is, of making indelible suggestions, but these often fell short of deeper content. And maybe it also arrived at a certain mannerism or routine. I don't know the word, in Czech we say macha. It's something which you can very skillfully done, but maybe it's not creative anymore. The mechanical repetition of let's say fashion or trendy stylistic principles, and therefore it had to be transformed in later stages as its creators matured and gradually turned to more intimate, classical and serious formats and forms. In Czech environment, this process took place very obviously. The contradictions between the official theatre and the avant-garde escalated towards the end of the 1920s to such an extent that both sides began to feel the need to resolve it. The avant-garde was becoming dangerously hampered in its realization of its aims by the restrictions of too small experimental nature, and was also beginning to suffer from the traits of dilettantism which amateur or semi-professional operating necessarily entailed. The leading creators of the official scenes, at least the artistic personalities who excelled above the average, were again beginning to realize that the official theatre was in a danger of stagnation. Gradually, therefore, the intention to use avant-garde impulses as rejuvenating injunctions matured, and studio stages were set up at the large stone stages in the Czech theatre centers in Prague, Brno and Ostrava, with artists from avant-garde small stages invited to lead them. But anyway, I wanted to point out the special quality and testimonial value of these Radas albums. Yeah, maybe just some more. Yeah, here you can see also the brother others. Yeah. So these scrapbooks, which we have to treat as a kind of ego documents, which mean they were not objective, but the more they can capture something like atmosphere, the spirit of these creative impulses, and a special authenticity.